Accidental Love by Gary Soto, Chapter 10. Renee avoided Marissa as he maneuvered down the hallways, his attention drawn toward the ground and the vista of legs, shoes, stains of spilled soda, hardened gum, and pennies that weren't worth the effort of students too cool to pick them up. Marissa recognized the sadness and was waiting for the Thursday rehearsal of Romeo and Juliet to apologize. She hoped that the showdown in the school parking lot hadn't gotten him in even more trouble. At rehearsal, they would have to stand side by side and could spy on each other out of the corners of their eyes. She would try to clutch his hand and not give it back. On Wednesday, Hamilton Magnet was scheduled to play Washington in basketball, a preseason tune-up between two teams that both played as if their shoelaces were undone. Sloppy. The players for Hamilton were mostly anemic-looking poets and artists, a few math heads strong at calculating their chances of victory. Zero. And some musicians from the orchestra. The tuba player Marco Sanchez was the shortest player on the team, 5'3", red cheeked after 3 minutes on the court, and slow as syrup drooling from a bottle of Mrs. Butterworth. He ran up and down the court as if he were carrying his tuba in a folding chair. Come with me, Priscilla begged as she captured one of Marissa's wrists and shook her arm like a garden hose. Marissa agreed. At the game, held in Hamilton's gymnasium, the two girls arrived just as the crew of students from Washington came in, all loud, all jabbing their hands into potato chip bags. Hey, girl, Letitia loudly greeted Marissa when they met at the folding table where tickets were sold. She had a comb stuck in her afro. What are you doing here? Marissa and Letitia had been close friends in first and second grade, but by third, they had drifted. Letitia to her black friends at one table in the lunchroom, and Marissa to the Latinos hanging out in the grassy hill. It was a division of races. It was the way things were, no matter how much the teachers tossed around the word multicultural. Hey, Letitia, Marissa hugged her old friend. This is my new school. New school? Letitia was not known to speak softly. She didn't do anything softly. What do you mean? You ain't going to sit with us? Her face rolled with dissatisfaction. If that's the case, we're going to spank your team's booty. We be pumped. Marissa waved and smiled and looped her arm into Priscilla's as they paid their $2, entered the gymnasium, and climbed the bleachers. The coach with a gut as round as basketball stood on the sidelines. He was Mr. Green, Marissa's math teacher, who looked like he couldn't move but was surprisingly swift on his feet. The vice principal was on a cell phone. 3 or 4 teachers, plus a security guard in a yellow jacket, were trying to pin a school banner to a wall. A few students were clotted together, and a few sat in the top row of the bleachers. I've never been to a basketball game, Marissa told Priscilla, who said, No, sir, you've been to a game before, and then screamed when the DJ started a song that she really liked. It's true, I've been to football games, but never a basketball game. Marissa scanned the gym. It's kind of sorry, huh? There ain't hardly anybody here. The school's flag high. The school's flag high in the rafters was stirred by the air conditioning. One of the lights flickered, and somewhere outside a door was banging shut again and again. So which one is he? Marissa asked, taking a chocolate flavored Tootsie Roll pop that Priscilla offered her. That hottie there, Priscilla said. She pointed quickly and had to point again when Marissa, with candy on her tongue, slurred, Which one? The one with the ball. Aaron. Marissa studied Priscilla's would-be boyfriend as she sucked on the candy. He was average height, dark-haired, and pale as milk. His biceps bulged with muscles. He had a star-shaped tattoo on the back of his right calf. He's hella cute, Marissa remarked. I know, Marissa responded after a long span of silence. She chewed at the fingernail and then scowled at it. I'm such a mess. Even my fingers are bleeding. Stop it, then. Marissa slapped Priscilla's hand, and Priscilla let her drop into her thigh. Marissa's own heart leaped when she noticed Renee at a long table. At first she thought he was working the soundboard, but saw he kept glancing up to the scoreboard over by the far end of the double doors. Renee's here too, Marissa remarked flatly. Where? Priscilla asked. There, she pointed, slightly embarrassed because Renee was wearing a pair of high water pants, and from where she sat, she could tell his socks didn't match. She sighed and said, Man, his clothes are so wickety whack. When the game started, the small group of Washington supporters began to rock as if they were riding a bus and then shriek when one of the players scored and were louder than Hamilton's pep band. They blew up their potato chip bags and clapped them when a Hamilton player was set to shoot. It was 10-0 before Hamilton scored. Hamilton out by a Washington player who accidentally tipped the ball into the opponent's basket. Marissa watched Aaron play. He moved nicely on the court, and he seemed to care whether they won or lost. He hustled, and one of every 3 of his shots swished. When he was taken out of the game, he scrubbed his face with a towel and drank 3 cups of water. Marissa was fascinated by him. She had to admit that he was good looking, even gorgeous, and then she felt hideous about such a thought. Was she coveting the boy Priscilla liked? So what does he do? Marissa asked. In her 3 weeks at Hamilton, she had discovered that everyone did something: computer graphics, robotics, poetry, drama, homemade graphic novels, and lots of music, both classical and alternative. He plays basketball, she answered. He lives and dies for it. You got it bad, huh, girl? Yeah, real bad. When I'm in bed, I send him these telepathic messages. I tell him to look for me. Priscilla. They both laughed, but Priscilla laughed harder. He knows, but he doesn't care, Priscilla added. She told Marissa that his parents were both doctors. That much she knew about his family life. Marissa paid attention to some of the game, but mostly she spent time looking back at of Renee's head as he worked the electronic scoreboard. She felt childish as she rummaged through her memories of the first and only fight. All she had spewed from her lips was that she thought the actors were fake, and all he had said was, "How come you're so negative?" Her ego was so fragile as a robin's egg, and it broke. She wished she could take back her bitterness. She liked him. After all, hadn't he been willing to punch Roberto for her? Marco Sanchez also only played 2 minutes of the first half, and during halftime he joined the pep band, his face growing sweatier from his tuba playing than from the time on the court. He did his best to keep in tune to the rally cry of Louie Louie. Hamilton lost 65 to 23. On Thursday morning, clouds rolled in, darkened the autumn sky. Rain splashed like tears against the kitchen window. Trying to get in and spread its moodiness, Marissa was considering what to wear, a jacket or just two sweatshirts, as she raked a thin layer of strawberry jam over an unbuttered piece of toast. Her cell phone rang. It was Priscilla, whose first words were, "I had a dream that he was talking to me." She didn't even have to explain the cryptic message. "He's on you. He's trailing you like a shark." "I hope he bites," she said, and hung up. When Marissa got to school, Renee seemed to be waiting for her. He was kicking the scuffed toe of his shoe into the asphalt. "Hey, Marissa," greeted. She could have played hard to get and hooked herself to the crowd heading toward the cafeteria, but she emptied her heart. She was full of words that needed to come out. "Hey," Renee greeted. "I want to say I'm sorry." "No, I'm sorry." They stood just inches away from each other. Marissa could smell soap on Renee. She could also smell coffee, a surprise because he was vegan and they didn't oppose caffeine. "I should have been braver," Renee muted. Marissa paused as she nearly blurted out, "Why is your mom like a hag?" The urge was so great that she had already inhaled a lungful of wind for such a purpose. Instead, she let it out by muttering, "I didn't know you drink coffee." "Just sometimes," Renee said before he began to explain what it was in his heart. "Listen, Marissa, my mom is real strict. She wants me to, do well in school." He flapped his arms at his sides as if he were a penguin. "She wants me to go to Harvard or Stanford." Here it comes, Marissa thought. He's going to cut me loose. She thinks having a girlfriend will get me in trouble. Do you think I'm in trouble? Do you think I'm trouble?" Marissa asked. She rested her head against his shoulder, eyes closed, and smelled his soap. Or was it shaving cream? Had he started to shave? "Yeah, I do," he answered. Marissa pulled her head away from his shoulder. "So I'm trouble?" Her system began to cook up a pot of anger. "Marissa, let me finish." He fumed for a moment and finally said in a controlled voice, "I like you because you are trouble. It's dangerous. Don't forget that was the first time I got into a fight ever." Marissa had first raised her fist when she was in her stroller, and her older cousin Jose had ripped a popsicle from her sticky fingers. Or at least that is what she was told every time she saw her cousin, now an army sergeant and the push-up king of his battalion. This cousin, and Marissa had witnessed it, could do 300 two-finger push-ups and hardly break a sweat. "I know it's sad, but that's me," Renee twitched his nose. "It doesn't hurt anymore." Marissa thought about herself close again. The soap smell was there, and the coffee smell, plus something. She sniffed like a rabbit, like sadness. "Poor baby," she mused. "He wants to be a man." "Renee," Marissa asked. "What?" "You're standing on my shoe." She played it up by wincing from pain. She took a few stumbling steps as she pretended to make it better. He lifted his shoe and said, "Oh, I'm sorry." "Listen, buddy boy," Marissa said as she stroked his hair. "You're not supposed to say that you're sorry all the time." "I'm not?" Renee appeared baffled. "No, you're not. You're the dude, the guy. El mero mero ese vato. The homie, the heavyweight champion of this girl's heart." Marissa touched her heart. "You're El Macho, Mr. Suave. And if you keep lifting weights, contender for the title of Mr. America." Renee sucked his gut so that his stood out. "Remember, you wear los pantalones," Marissa said, then grimaced at his high waters. "But I'm going to tell you what kind, and it ain't the ones you got on." The two kissed and made up, and lifted weights that day in the abandoned part of the gym. Marissa did 100 sit-ups, and for fun of it, lifted Renee into her arms and staggered about. She huffed, and "This is just to let you know that she adjusted him in her arms and groaned. "If you ever get sick or in an accident, I'll carry you to the hospital." After school, they went to rehearsal. They didn't have much to do. The chorus stood on the side of the stage, and the director, with his hands in his hair, scolded, "Romeo, your timing is all wrong." Marissa elbowed Renee and winked at him. "Who wears the pants?" she murmured. "I do," he answered. "And you have to speak clearly." The director boomed, "Remember not to swallow your words. Take your time. But who tells you what kind, my Romeo?" Marissa whispered in his ear. You do. He laced his fingers into hers and smiled. After rehearsal, they met with Priscilla and the three of them went to a mall close to Marissa's aunt's house. There, the girls pulled Renee into a store filled with loud bass thumping music. None of the words were decipherable, but I'm the man, he protested over the music. The band, the girls giggled. You wish, Marissa laughed. Right now, Priscilla and me are the mommies, and we're going to buy Bad Baby a pair of pants. They had pooled their money and borrowed some from one of Priscilla's friends. They came up with $29, just enough to splurge on a pair of jeans in a current style. When they found the right jeans, Renee headed for the dressing rooms. He emerged lamenting, but they don't fit. He gripped the loose front and remarked that he looked like the after photo of a formerly fat person. Anyhow, they look like someone else wore them for a million years. They're faded. That's how you're supposed to wear them, Priscilla retorted. They're too long, he added as he modeled in front of the mirror. They're going to drag. What did I say to you? Marissa asked. I wear the pants. Ikemas? But you picked them out. Dang, he trained, Priscilla laughed. The girls bought the jeans for him, one on each side. They escorted him like the police from the store, Renee giggling and protesting that he hardly knew these two females and would someone please help him because his pants were falling off. This is the end to chapter 10.